Hello, today we are looking at addition and subtraction of fractions. Now, the number one rule when adding or subtracting fractions is they must, and I can't stress this enough, must have the same denominator. Now, reminder, denominator is the number on the bottom of the fraction. And when adding and subtracting fractions, they must be the same. Now we're going to have a look at 3 different examples, and from those 3 different examples there'll be 3 worked tasks. So the first example is fairly straightforward. I'm going to take 1/5 and I'm going to add it to 3/5. Now immediately looking at that question, you can clearly see that the 5s are the same. Therefore, what we can do is we can immediately add them. So the 5 and the 5, the denominator stays the same. So we can add the fractions. 1 plus 3 is 4. So if the denominators are the same, keep the denominator the same, add the fractions. Similar with subtraction. If we take 6/7 minus 2/7, again we can clearly see the denominators are the same. So all we then do is add the fractions. So the 7 stays the same. 6 minus 2 is 4. Have a go at the following 2. Pause the video and then check back in to see if you're correct. So the first example that I'm going to do, or the first task that you're going to do rather, is 2/5 plus 1/5. And the second one you're going to do is 7/9 minus 4/9. Pause the video, answer the questions, then check back in. So clearly the 5ths are the same, so we can keep the 5ths the same. 2 plus 1 is 3. Same principle with the 9ths. The 9ths are the same, so we can keep it with the 9ths. 7 minus 4 is 3. But from the work you've previously done, that 3/9 you should know can be simplified because both 3 is in the 3 times table and 9 is in the 3 times table. So that will come to, she says, just pushing the paper up, 1/3, because 3 times 3, sorry, 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 3 is 9. So to recap, if the denominators are the same for adding or subtracting, we keep the denominators the same. We just then add or subtract the numerators. Right, next examples I'm going to have a look at are when the denominators are different. Okay, so for example, if we have 1/2 plus 1/4. Now clearly these are not the same. We need to find a way of making these denominators the same. So what we're looking for here is what we call the lowest common denominator. Now using our knowledge of times tables, we know that 2 times 2 is 4. So if we double the numerator and denominator on here, we can create the same over here. So our new denominator is going to be 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Let me jot that down. So therefore 1 times 2 is 2. We have found the equivalent fraction. The second part that we're adding is already in quarters, so this can just stay the same. 2 plus 1 quarters, or 2 quarters plus 1 quarter gives us 3 quarters. Now, because this is more steps involved in this question, there will be more marks. And questions like this, where it's very simple to see the connection, with normally 2 mark questions, straightforward questions where you don't need to find a common denominator, are 1 mark questions. Let's have a look at another example. Let's have 4/9 minus 1/3. Again, we're looking for what the common denominator could be. So 3 times 3 gives us 9. So if we change everything into ninths, we'll still be subtracting. We now just need to work out what. Well, 4/9 is already in ninths, so that is staying the same. 3 times by 3 gives us 9. So therefore that 1, again, we're going to be multiplying it by 3, gives us 3. 4 minus 3 over 9, therefore 1/9. Again, over to you for 2 questions. Pause the video. Once I've written out the questions, answer them and then check back in. So we'll want question number 3. Let's have 5/6 minus 1/2 and 7/8 plus 1/4. Again, pause the video and then check back in. Let's have a look at this one first. We're looking for the common denominator. Again, it's quite straightforward. We know that 2 times 3 is 6. 2, 4, 6. We can work that out simply. So we make our new denominator 6. 5/6 stays the same. We are subtracting first this time. 2 times 3 is 6. So if we take that 1, multiply it by 3, it will get us 3. 5 minus 2 all over 6. 5 minus, sorry, my mistake, 5 minus 3 all over 6. 5 minus 3 is 2, 6. Again, from what we've previously done, we should know that 2/6 is just 1/3. Again, a 2 mark question. Let's have a look at this one. Looking for a connection. Well, 2 lots of 4 is 8. So our new denominator is going to be 8. 7/8 stays the same and we are adding. 4 multiplied by 2 gives us the 8, therefore the 1 multiplied by 2 is 2. That will give us 9/8. Again, for the complete answer, we know that this vulgar fraction is over 1 because the numerator is higher than the denominator. So we can convert it into 1 and 1 1/8. This answer is correct. 1 1/8 is complete. Again, this is an example of a 2-mark question. The final set of questions I'm going to be looking at today are ones where the connection is not clear. The connection does not immediately spring to mind. So what we can use for this is we can use what is called a cross multiplication method. For example, if we take 2/3 minus 1/4. 2/3 minus 1/4. So we can't see this clearly. So what we do is we take the two denominators and multiply them. Now this is where the cross multiplication skill comes in, because you're going to take the 3 times by the 1. You are going to take the 4 times by the 2. So I'll recap that. To find our new denominator, we've multiplied the 2 previous denominators here. So we've now got a common denominator. We then cross multiply the numerators. So 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 1 is 1. And again, we need to check the operation. This example, we are subtracting. We now need to work it out. Following the rules of BIDMAS, the multiplication first. 3 times 4 is 12. 8 minus 1 is 7. Our answer is 7/12. I'll run through that again. If we can't see a clear and simple connection, we multiply the 2 denominators. Let's put a little bit of colour on that so you can see that just a little bit clearer. Can't use yellow, can't use that, can't use that. We're going to take the 2 denominators and we're going to multiply them. We're then going to cross multiply to find our new numerators. So 4 times 2 is 8, 3 times 1 is 1. We then need to work it out. So 3 multiplied by 4 is 12, 8 minus 1 is 7. Again, let's go through another example. Let's take 2/5 add 2/3. Again, there isn't a clear and simple answer to this. We've got to work through it step by step. So the first step is multiply the denominators. 5 multiplied by 3. We are then going to cross multiply. Three times 2 is 6. We are adding. 5 times 2 is 10. 1 mark so far. We then need to work it out. So we have 5 times 3 is 15. 6 plus 10 is 16. 2 marks on this question so far. But for the complete answer, we need to convert this into a mixed number. So we have 1 and 1/15 over. If you can get to this part here, that's fine. That is a correct answer. This is a complete answer. Again, two tasks for you. We're on number 5 for you. So we have 4/5 minus 1/4, and we will also do task number 6, 1/3 plus 2/5. As before, work them out, check back in to see if you're correct. Always the same principle, we must have the same denominator. This is not straightforward. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the denominators together to find our new denominator. So that is 5 multiplied by 4. As before, we cross multiply. 4 times 4 is 16. We are subtracting. 5 times 1 is 5. Again, do the calculation. 5 times 4 is 20. 16 minus 5 is 11. 11 over 20. We expect to see these steps. We expect to see this working out. Final one, number 6. 1/3 plus 2/5. Again, it's not clear straight away. Multiply the two denominators. 3 multiplied by 5. We then cross multiply to find our new numerators. 5 times 1 is 5. We are adding. 3 times 2 is 6. Will give us 3 times 5 is 15. 5 plus 6 is 11. 11/15.